So we just got done with the KC Cup in Duel Links, and of course, about a week after the KC Cup is usually when Konami drops a brand new Banlist on us, and this time, it should be pretty big, right? The last one I think wasn't really all that great. We had Neos Fusion back, and that was kind of the only real change. Based on last year, which was quite a few changes, I think it was Star Ceres being hit. This time should be the same thing, but I think, in general, we don't really need a ban list. We've got a very healthy metagame right now. We have an Xyz deck tier 1, 2 Pendulum decks in the format, a Synchro deck, a Fusion deck, and a general jank pile deck, all in the top tier on Duel Links meta, so I don't think we need a ban list, but I think I'm going to do one because they usually do every KC Cup. There's going to be some pretty sweeping changes. Now, we do know we're getting Sora in a brand new main box coming next week. There could be some preemptive changes on the ban list to hit cards if like a legacy archetype is getting support, right, or they're getting more support, they might be bringing cards back. So we'll start right there. First of all, with Forbidden, nothing. They're not going to want to ban cards, they don't have to, and as much as people are saying Treacherous ban, Kiteroid ban, I think they're both going to stay at Limit 2, but at Limit 1, I think we're going to first of all get a card coming off the list, and I think we're going to get the 6 Samurai Inishi. Where is he? There he is, there's our boy. He is the bounce 1 in 6 Samurais. Now, they haven't really been doing much in the game for a very, very long time, and the reason for that is because if you just look at their deck, they have 2 cards at Limit 2. They have Shien's Dojo, and they of course have the Inishi. Now, if you remove Inishi to Limit 1, then you do remove Monster Reborn, which might be kind of big for this deck right now, but you do get back double Dojo. And that's really big because really it means that any of your normal summons becomes a Fuma, Fuma becomes a Shien, right? So your main common play is still to make Shien, but now with some Xyzes, there is a bit more versatility there in that deck. And I think it is well due time for them to come back. In some form, I don't think they'll be any good still. Maybe they can give us the brand new Xyz. That's not very good, right? But I would like to see 6 Samurais come back, but hopefully just not be as toxic given the meta has evolved further on. Then we'll move to Gandora, Limit 1. I think it won't happen, but I really, really want this boy here. I want the OG Gandora to be Limit 1, because you only run 1 copy in the deck already. That is it. And if we go to the deck breakdown, what do you run at Limit 1 in that deck? You run things like Monster Reborn, and you run Melody. And what does Melody get you? It gets you into, where is the boy, Levianeer. I think Levianeer is kind of the blow-up problem with the deck right now. Obviously some builds aren't running. I think the list here isn't running it, right? Yeah, it's not running it. But the builds that do run it are so toxic, and I think that's not how Konami wanted the skill to work and the deck to work. So I think if there's any hit to Gandora, I don't think there will be, but if there is, putting this to 1 could kind of deter those Levianeer plays, but I think the bigger thing is a nerf to the skill, but we'll talk about that when we go on to skills at the end of the video. Moving on to Limit 2s, we have Phantom Knights. These guys are 100% going to get hit in some shape or form. TTH is in the deck, and you know what that means? If it's a top tier deck, it's going to be hit. Now, they've had 2 KC Cups under their belt, which means it's prime time for a light hit. Now, what could be hit in this deck, right? You would go for the SR Silent Boots or the free-to-play card Ragged Gloves. So you can't really go for the Ultra Rare mini box card, so you go for the free-to-play. But I think hitting the boots is so drastic that they won't do it, because Yuto still hasn't come back to the game. He was here in January, like the week after Milestone release, and so loads of people missed him out because of Konami's shitty release timing for that game. And so I think if they do hit something, then it might be Kagemucha Knight. It's an extender card, it does help your plays, but it's not a core card of the deck. It does help out, and you would want to run, like what are they running, right? They're running 2 of in 77%, right? So you would drop it to 1, you know, you'd go 1 and 1, right? If they were trying to do that. I feel like they kind of they're forced to do something with these 2, but I don't know which one you'd pick. Probably the Ragged Gloves, right? Because the Silent Boots is so integral for the combo of the Phantom strategy. So it's either going to be Gloves or it's going to be Kagemucha Knight, but I'm not sure which one. Then we'll go over to another deck that has been abusing TTH in the past. We have Harpies. Now, this deck has been around for well over a year now. I think it's now a year and 1 month. It came out back in March last year, and it's still good. It's the only deck on the tier list, that is a non-Arc 5 supported deck. We have Phantom Knights from January, Gandora last month, Metal Foes from February, DDs from the November mini box and structure deck, and Buster Blade from the brand new New Year's main box. So it's the only deck that's kind of been still around for a long time. And so I think they're going to do one last hit. And I think the way you do it is you move Egotist to 1 and you put Channeler to 2. You hit consistency for the deck and you remove the bullshit that is Swallow's Nest. This card is so fucking annoying in that deck, because if you have your Disruption, then they can just tag out with this and go into another one of this or a Perfumer and then get their combo off and still go on as if nothing ever happened, which is really, really frustrating. And I think that's like one of the main hits they can do, aside from nerfing the deck to like high heaven. But I don't think they will, because this deck is one of the only decks in the format that are keeping people from, like, older players still in the game. It's a deck they've invested in. It means older players can come back into the game and play with their deck still, get some new back row support, get some new Xyzes, and then be on their merry way. And given Konami are going to be transitioning this game into keeping their current player base more, keeping that current player base in the game, not really grabbing new users, I think that might go against the whole hitting this deck. They might not want to, but if it does, I think Channeler to 2 would be a sensible hit for this late in that deck's life. And finally, for Limit 2s, we're going to go all the way down to Limit 3s. We have Magician's Rod. Come on, come back to me, please. This card going to Limit 2 would be the best case scenario for a light buff to the deck. And it would be a buff, and I thought they would have done this back in January, the anniversary of the brand new skill and, the structure deck, but they never really did. Beyond about time for Dark Magician to come back and actually see some play and be able to actually have a normal summon that's part of the deck and not that shitty fucking dragon that makes you wait to the end phase to get its effect off, right? Do I think it'll happen? No, because Konami clearly hate me, but if it doesn't happen, then please, at the bare minimum, buff that anniversary skill of Dark Paladin. We'll talk about it in a minute, but please buff that, because that was a absolute slap in the face to DM fans, given what you gave Blue Eyes the year before. And finally, we have Limit 3, White Princess. Now, everyone probably saw this one coming. Banner Box of Veil was the same kind of thing, was very quickly put on the Limit 3 list, because it could be abused with things like Cosmic Cyclone and triggering skills, and this doesn't really do that. But what it does do is it gives your opponent, gives you a huge advantage from one discard. One discard, all their monsters become super weak. And it's also being played quite a bit in Gandora. So Gandora, 3 copies in 44% of the deck. Now, is Gandora running any other Limit 3s? They're running Banner Box of Veil, they're running Kite Roid, they're running Sphere Karibo, they're running Hand Trap Heaven, so I think putting this to Limit 3 would slightly hit that deck, but also make it so it can still be played at full power in Skull Servants where it belongs. Then onto the unlimits. Now, I did think initially, okay, they might just do something like Neos Fusion to unlimit because they have been moving it around, but then things like Keeper Dragon Magic in the same thing does make sense. I think it'll be some random cards we're not really thinking of in the metagame if they do. Something like Gen X Controller. Give Crystons at least some form of support back, give them a tuner. They've still got, 1, 2, 3 cards on the Limit 2s, and, obviously other support cards that were supporting them, so they're still here. And then maybe they'll give us, Champion's Vigilance back at some, to another, a different hit. I think this card can come back. It's, not to Unlimited, but maybe Limit 2, right? This could come back, right? In this current day and age, what's it going to be played in? Blue Eyes or Dark Magician, and that's it? So I think they could bring this back. But now, let's go on to the skills, where things might get a little bit spicy. First of all, the main one I think everyone's kind of thinking is going to be hit is Draw Sense. Now, there's Draw Sense high level, low level, spell or trap cards. The attribute ones are stuck at 1500 life points, which means they're out of Cosmic Cyclone range, but the other ones, they aren't. So I think these ones will be nerfed to be 1500, to be on the same kind of level, and that will be completely fine. It'll be expected. It means that Buster Blader do lose some power, but I think that's kind of needed going forward. Then let's go to Master Fusion Paladin, which is the most insulting skill to Dark Magician players we've ever seen. And despite that, I do like the way they were going with it. The Highlander thing is kind of cool, but there's too many restrictions on the skill, right? So what do? Do you buff it to say that you now remove this bit here, the anti-special summon in your opponent's turn, because it means you can now use your one-off navigation in your opponent's turn, which gives you a bit of disruption, which you kind of need? That would be one way of going about it. Or they could also increase the extra deck slots. So currently we can only play Dark Paladin as our only fusion in the deck. we can't play Dark Cavalry the best target. So I think they should make this be able to play Dark Cavalry. Now, will that magically fix the skill? No, it really won't. I think it needs a bigger rework than just that. But it will give it a second lease of life and might see people experimenting with it more because Dark Cavalry is a way better card. It is much, much better than Dark Paladin. So I think that will be fair enough. Now onto some skills I don't think will be hit necessarily, but if they do get hit, here's how I'd kind of do them. First of all, we have Phantom Strategy. Again, Yuto hasn't come back yet. He won't come back until May or maybe even June at the latest. Last year, we had all of our returning characters for the year. We had Antinomy and Kite, so Kite from January, Antinomy from February. They came back in June in a mega character unlock month. So they might do the same again. And so Phantom Strategy probably doesn't need to be hit right now. But if it did, what would you do? Well, here it says, during the turn you activate this skill, you can't special summon rank 4 or above monsters unless they are Dark Warriors or Dark Dragons. Make this rank 3 as well, which means you do turn off access to, where is it? Leviair the Sea Dragon in your first turn. It means you have to choose between going Leviair or going for the trap card, the Fog Blade. You can't do both. And I think that will be the first hit they do with the skill eventually. Not right now, but in the future, I think that'll probably be the way they kind of go about it. Then we have DDDs, and this deck has just gotten good, right? Because of the skill buff, they made it so there's only 3 in the extra deck. It's a very, very good skill. I don't think we'll see a hit just yet. Yes, it was like a really good deck in the KC Cup, which means it's primed for a hit. I'm starting to see a universe where they go, oh, we messed up, let's revert the skill back to what it was. I don't think they will. I think the more likely thing is going for a main deck limit 3, which then turns off the floodgate. Because your main power play is summoning into this boy here, your Super Psych King Zero Maxwell that does piercing damage and makes defense 0. So things like Book of Moon and Floodgate, they're going to do that. Now, what could they also do? They could put Book of Moon to 3, but they won't. This card, until Link Era comes around, Rainsworld, will keep selling. This card will keep selling that main box, and so I don't think they will. I really, really don't. It'd be cool if they did, right? It would be like a what the fuck moment, but I don't think it's soon enough for them to warrant doing it. And finally for skills, we have, of course, Determination to Fight. I do not believe for a second that this skill is being used as intended by Konami. At all. There's no way meant to be summoning Levianeer and doing your XC shenanigans, and so I think there's multiple ways of going about nerfing this skill. First of all, you make it twice per duel instead of 3 times per duel, which means that you're putting these cards in the graveyard, right? Your Giga Rays or your Gandor X is way more important. And if your Gandor X gets banished, then you're going to be losing, you're going to be losing effects on Giga Rays. You're not going to be getting that banish all the cards in the field in the graveyard, the big blowout play. And so putting this skill to twice per duel would kind of fix that. And that would be a nice, easy nerf they can do, and it would make sense. They could go and make so you can only use one of these effects once per duel each, which would completely break the skill. It would be dead. You wouldn't be able to get your 3 copies in the graveyard for Gandor or Giga Rays unless you were playing multiple copies of Gandor or Giga Rays and nothing happened to banish them. I think as well what they should do is they should make it so that the extra deck is kind of restricted. It's a roleplay skill, a DM skill, it's a Yugi skill. There was no Synchro or Xyz back in that era. So, make it so you can't play anything but fusions in the extra deck. Make it so that they can't go for their Gigant combo. I know they want to, right? And Konami kind of want them to because they're using gadgets and they're thinking, oh, you know, gadgets do some searching, you make some generic rank 4s, and you go it from there. But I don't think they'll do that. I think if anything, it's making it twice per duel, but I think it is too soon unless it really is not as Konami intended, right? Unless it's being abused in a way Konami didn't see coming, then sure. But that is my predictions, wishlist kind of mix mashed together for the brand new Duel Links ban list. Hopefully it's good. Hopefully it comes. I think it's probably going to be around like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week. Usually it's kind of when we get them is a week after KC Cup ending. So there'll be a reaction video out as soon as possible when that does drop. But anyway, let me know down below what you think of the Duel Links ban list, what you want to see come off the list and added to the list, and skills and all that kind of thing. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next Duel Links video. See you then.